Reparations should be strictly for foundational Black Americans descended of freedmen, because we were the ones who suffered in slavery. See, it's reparations for slavery. It's not reparations for racism.
The contributions that we've given to America has not been repaid in the way that it should. And since this is a capitalist society, actually it's an imperialistic capitalist society. Notice the words. We deserve our coins. Deserve reparations, even if they try to say, well, we can't give you 40 acres and a mule. No problem. We still want some land, though. And if we don't get our land, we will like so much monetary. Listen, Black people deserve a check for life.
The United States owes my family for the free labor they did during slavery.
How can anyone deny these facts? Why is it immigrants are not stopping reparations?
My ancestors come from the Caribbean, and there were slaves in the Caribbean, and we didn't
qualify for the American reparations.
Well, here's the challenge. There are so many difficulties with trying to enact reparations, in part because the question is who gets them. Potentially, I could fall into that category. I honestly have called a pipe dream in the past, and I think that's what it is.
Well, it would be nice if there was an elegant, simple solution to all sorts of complicated problems. You're not actually talking about how to fix those problems if you're only talking about reparations. If we're only debating how we're going to parcel out responsibility for something that happened more than a century ago. And we're probably never going to do this. It's not clear to me why we're pursuing this thing.
Is it fair that there's no reparations, no restitution, nothing?
Should the Irish get reparations, by the way? Irish need not apply signs when they came here during the Progressive era. Sure. I mean, how far do we want to take this down? Are we acknowledging that there are ugly spots in history? Because 60% of the world would be entitled to slave reparations if you wanted to play that game.
Well, here's a fact. Slavery ended 154 years ago. It's been a long, long time since we had slavery in this country. And you have people like my family. I'm Black, but my family came to the United States in 1962. My parents are from Costa Rica. Do I get a check?
I did a couple of essay contests that I actually won. And I won like NAACP AXO award for this essay and something else. I can't remember another, like I ended up winning money. And the essay was, do you think Black people should get reparations? And I was like, no, you didn't work for it.
Why are you so against reparations?
Valerie, it's a matter of a waste of time. We've got so much to do. And yet you have people who invest so much energy and attention on what I consider to be a dead-end idea, a dead-end movement.
If we were to pay reparations today, we would only divide the country further. We would insult many Black Americans by putting a price on the suffering of their ancestors.
Reparations from slavery and Black victimization is about to be shoved down our throats for the most wretched holiday in America. BLM raised millions, but what did they do for Black lives? It is outrageous to see people asking for reparations, even though they never went through slavery. These ungrateful people should be celebrated because they were born in the greatest nation to ever exist. Here's a tip. If you don't like America, kindly get the out.
Ladies and gentlemen, is why we want to sever ties with these people. This is why. This man's name is Byron Donalds. He is a congressman, a Republican United States representative in the state of Florida. Do you know what congressmen do? They actually create bills, legislation, and basically they help to facilitate and make laws. What would reparations be? It could either be a bill or a law. And this immediately no, because he's a Jamaican Panamanian. He's an immigrant, and he will not be able to get any of those benefits. And this is the issue. This is the issue. Why people that have the same hue of complexion as us, they get into positions of power and they undermine us. And this is why we say we don't want to with them like that no more. Because we helped them to get into position. We did. Thinking that skinfolk was kinfolk. And now we're starting to see clear as day that they will never, ever pass or put anything into play to solely benefit us. But they will do for immigrants. They will pass bills and laws for immigrants. They will allocate funds simply and strictly and only and exclusively for immigrants. Y'all see how that go? Y'all see how that go? Yeah, people keep saying we need unity, we need unity. What are we benefiting from these people? They don't even. And when they get in positions where they could do something for us, they're going to say no if they're not benefiting from it. But they will, like I said, we got to run it back again. They will do something that's going to only solely benefit them. We have to continue to wake the. We cannot keep letting this. We all the same hue of complexion. The cops going to stop us and we all going to get. It's a trick bag at this point. It's a trick bag. And there's so many of people with the same exact mindset in politics that have the ability to vote for certain bills and laws and have the ability to veto certain bills and laws.
We want tangibles as foundational Black Americans. And we're not going to let them redefine what reparations mean, right? Is reparations student loan debt? No. Is reparations HBCU funding? No. Is reparations minority business loans? No. Is reparations catfish nuggets? No. What's reparations? Money! What's reparations? Money! What's reparations? Money! Give yourselves a round of applause. Now, family, when we talk about reparations, we get the same 7 rebuttals from the dominant society, and we need to know how to address their rebuttals when we talk about what we need to get as far as reparations. The first thing that they say is, well, wouldn't reparations be divisive? Wouldn't that make people in the dominant society not like you? Are you here to be liked by the dominant society? Tina Turner told us, what's love got to do with it? We're trying to get our money. We're already divided, but they control our resources. So we want them to divide our money and give it back to us because we're owed a debt as foundational Black Americans.
Was bad and all, but reparations just aren't realistic. The fact is reparations are realistic, but people love to shut down the conversation around reparations in one of 3 ways by saying that there's nothing that needs to be repaired, that it's too expensive, or that it's impossible or impractical. So let's debunk each one and get smarter in seconds. First, there is a lot that needs to be repaired, especially in the context of the United States, but right now we're going to focus on chattel enslavement. Reparations can include direct payments, scholarships, policy changes, government subsidies, or the return of bodies, art, artifacts, or land by a government or institution to an individual or community that has been harmed or wronged in the past. It's estimated that the United States benefited from over 222 million hours of forced labor between 1619 and 1865 when chattel slavery ended. That adds up to $100 trillion in unpaid wages. Now, that lost wealth combined with policy decisions like Jim Crow, redlining, segregation, and mass incarceration has resulted in a vast racial wealth gap between African American families and white American families. Not to mention the fact that programs like the GI Bill that were supposed to help all Americans build wealth specifically discriminated against African Americans. This brings us to the second point about reparations being too expensive. And economists estimate that a reparations bill of just $14 trillion could totally eliminate the racial wealth gap. I will admit that is a lot of money, but the context here is that the United States military already spends nearly $1 trillion each year on defense spending. So if a reparations program was enacted over a period of years, this is very attainable. We have already allotted trillions of dollars for war, bank bailouts, tax cuts for the wealthiest among us, and COVID relief. And think about the amount of taxpayer dollars that are already going to other countries for their endless wars. We should keep in mind that the reason we have all of this wealth to begin with is because of the forced enslaved labor that we profited from for centuries. The fact that so many descendants of enslaved African Americans are living in poverty today is a policy decision. Now, maybe you're like the person at the beginning where you believe that slavery was a huge wrong that should be repaired, but that reparations are just impossible. Well, this third point is for you. You should know that the United States and many other countries have already paid reparations many, many times. Maybe you need some proof. Don't worry, I got you. In 1988, the United States government paid $20,000 to each Japanese American survivor of Japanese incarceration during World War II. And in 1971, the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act returned 44 million acres to Native Alaskans, along with nearly $1 billion. And in 1994, Florida paid reparations to survivors of the 1923 Rosewood Massacre, a racist attack that destroyed an entire African American community. If we've done reparations before, we can do them again. The question was never if reparations were practical. The question is whether we will prioritize them. So we've debunked the 3 biggest arguments against reparations. Does this change the way you see reparations? If you want,
there is a conversation happening around reparations in America, and that is becoming harder and harder to ignore. And this time, the argument isn't simply about whether reparations should exist. The bigger question is, who would actually qualify? Because a discussion about reparations continue, some Black Americans are making their position very clear. If reparations are specifically intended to address the historical harm suffered by Black Americans' descendants from people enslaved in the United States, why should everyone automatically be included? And that question is creating serious controversy.
Has voted 5-4 that reparations should be paid to descendants of black slaves who were living in the United States during the 19th century.
Let me just make sure I heard that clearly. The bonds is closing for this. Say it again for me.
Next week, restitution will go to direct descendants of either free blacks or enslaved African Americans living in the United States by the end of the 19th century. Each eligible person could be owed more than $300,000. That would cost.
Before I start, this video is fake, scripted, and for educational purposes. Don't believe anything I'm saying. So far, here are the responses to some white people.
To decide who gets these reparations, because let's be honest, blacks are not the only ones with a history of racist oppression here in the United States.
Well, since we're all screaming about equality, well, what about those natives that were here long before any of us? You know, we pushed them out of their land and put them in little reservations and trailer homes.
So apparently, if you're white and you live in California, you're gonna have to start paying slave taxes.
I'm gonna let y'all know right now, I don't trust California. Y'all know for sure I don't trust them donkeys. I'm gonna let y'all know that the donkeys only do things when it's gonna be in some benefit of them. Do y'all remember when the only reason why they fought for slavery because they couldn't control the South? They didn't get involved until it was beneficial for them. Not to mention that California stayed closed. Even though the stay-at-home order was over, during that time, they were doing very shady stuff, like spending $1.6 billion on masks that were never delivered. So whereas reparations, it's been 157 years we were supposed to get our reparations. The whole time the country was involved and we were stuck at a stoplight. I don't have time in this video to explain to the people who I previously just showed why we need reparations. Like I said, there's always that one person who tries to gaslight situation. What about this or what about that? Nobody will ever get the light of day to express their issues if somebody...
Before y'all lose your shit and start saying, I didn't have any slaves, slavery was over 100 years ago, chill the fuck out, all right? Because that's not what we're talking about. This did not end 100 years ago. Slavery was not the end of all discrimination. It was not the end of all wealth being stripped and taken from Black Americans. Reconstruction era, Jim Crow era, Civil Rights era, the crack epidemic, there's not a point in time where America was not putting down Black Americans, taking their wealth from them, and preventing them from building capital. I went through and listed a whole bunch of Black towns that were destroyed by angry white mobs. Many of these towns were self-sufficient, and many of them had very wealthy Black residents like Jack Hawley, who had like 700 acres, a granary, a general store that was taken from him and never given back. He never got any reparations for it. That is wealth and capital that could have been passed on generationally that was stopped by white America. And it wasn't just the angry racist mobs that were causing this wealth inequality. Even though that alone should qualify for reparations, there was also the redlining. There was also the U.S. highways that destroyed neighborhoods. There was gentrification that's still happening today. In a capitalist society, those who have capital will get more capital. Those who don't have capital, even what they have will be taken from them. So while white Americans got to pass on their capital, their wealth, generation after generation, Black Americans and brown Americans had to restart over and over. Have y'all not played Monopoly? Do you know what happens when one person owns all the properties? It gets a lot less fun to play for the rest of the people. Shit, when I played Monopoly, we were ready to fight each other. My siblings, we hated each other after that game. If you were winning, you were just rubbing it in everybody else's face, and the losers were always having the worst time and end up flipping the damn board over. That is literally a perfect analogy of what is happening today. Black Americans are flipping the board over. They're tired of the game because the game has never suited them. It's getting boring. So how do we give out reparations? At this point, it would be damn near impossible to do it based on race, okay? There's so much mixing, what percentage, who would get it, it would just make a whole big mess. So that's why most people immediately stop thinking about reparations. Oh, we can't even do it. That'd be too complicated. But there is a way to do it. Y'all just don't want to give reparation. You could set up reparations that are not just cash. You're not just giving out stimulus checks. You could set it up to where people in these zip codes that were redlined can get loans, interest-free loans for houses, for businesses. Reparations does not have to be cash. It could be education. It could be welfare. It could be housing. To prevent people from gentrifying these areas because of these loans, you do it based on income. This would also benefit not only Black Americans, but Mexican Americans, Native Americans, Hawaiians, even Puerto Ricans. The entire island of Puerto Rico would qualify for this. Germany gave out reparations, okay? And they apologized. They sincerely apologized for what they did. And now look at their nation. It's one of the best places to live in the world. Hands down. Your social benefits are there. You have unlimited sick days. You have paid time off. You have affordable food, affordable housing. These are all things that were made possible because they paid reparations. I would argue if they never paid reparations, they would not have as great of a society as they do, because the people changed. The hearts of the people changed. And that's what has never happened in America. And even if this whole thing flops and nobody's life gets better because of reparations, right? At least we have shown people that we are changed by heart and that we care and that we want these communities to do better. And that would actually give these people in these communities a reason to care about America, a reason to fight for freedom. Right now, they have no reason. We've never given them a reason because we've never truly apologized. We've never rectified what happened. And until that day happens, we are going to be divided in this country.
Let's be clear about something first. There is currently no nationwide federal reparations check being sent to Black Americans. That is important because online discussions can make it sound as if Congress has already approved a national payment program. It has not. H.R. 40 introduced in 2025 would establish a commission to study slavery, subsequent discrimination, and possible reparations proposals. As of the current congressional record, it remains an introduced bill rather than enacted law. When people talk about upcoming reparations, we are talking about an ongoing political and policy debate, not a guaranteed federal payment that has already been approved. And that is exactly why the argument over eligibility matters so much. Supporters of the reparations argue that the issue isn't simply about slavery existing hundreds of years ago. They point to broader historical change, slavery, emancipation without meaningful economic compensation, segregation, housing discrimination, racial exclusion, employment discrimination, and policies that they argue contributed to long-term disparities in wealth and opportunity. A 2025 House resolution specifically argued that reparations should account not only for enslavement, but also for subsequent forms of legal and government-supported discrimination. So the argument from supporters is essentially this. If the government is addressing a specific historical injury, then the remedy should be connected to the people who suffered that injury and its documented consequences. That's the foundation of Black Americans' only argument. But here is where the controversy gets intense. Some critics respond, my ancestors suffered too. Others bring up immigration. Others point to slavery in different parts of the world. And some say, why should one group receive compensation when other groups have experienced poverty, discrimination, war, displacement, or exploitation? Those are legitimate questions to debate, but there is an important discussion that often gets lost. Reparations are not necessarily being proposed as a general reward for everyone who has experienced hardship. The central argument is that a particular government or institution caused or participated in a particular historical harm, and therefore a remedy should be targeted towards the people connected to that specific harm. And that is why the debate isn't simply who suffered. The deeper question is, what harm is being repaired, who was affected by it, and what should eligibility look like? And this is where I think Black Americans have every reason to ask for clarity. If America ever creates a reparation program, what exactly are the eligibility requirements? Would it be based on ancestry, genealogy, documented descent from people enslaved in the United States, residents, historical records, or some combination of factors? Those are not small details. They are potentially the entire foundation of the program. And this is where the immigration conversation enters the debate. There are millions of immigrants living in America who have their own histories, struggles, sacrifices, and experiences. Nobody should pretend those experiences don't matter. But recognizing another group's struggle does not automatically answer the question of who should receive a remedy for a specific historical injury. That's the distinction that gets lost in social media arguments. You can support immigrants' rights, you can support fair treatment, you can oppose discrimination, and at the same time, you can believe that a reparation program designed to address the specific historical experience of Black Americans should have clearly defined eligibility requirements. And there is another side of this conversation that deserves attention. Critics argue that taxpayers today should not be held financially responsible for actions they personally did not commit. That's a serious policy argument. Others worry about the cost and implementation, constitutional questions, and whether a reparation program would actually close the wealth gap. Those arguments deserve to be debated honestly. But if America is going to have this conversation, it also needs to be honest about the historical record and about what reparations are actually intended to repair. So, when you hear the response, Black Americans only, the real conversation should not simply be about anger. It should be about definition, history, eligibility, accountability, and policy. If are ever enacted, Americans will have to answer a very difficult question. Who is the remedy actually designed to compensate and why? So I want to hear from you guys. Should reparations be specifically targeted towards descendants of people enslaved in the US, or should eligibility be much broader? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below and kindly remember to keep it respectful. If you want breakdowns like this, hit the subscribe button and join our family. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.